I'm 72 years old. I used to believe time was something that waited for you, like a polite guest sitting in the other room. I was wrong. Time doesn't wait, it watches. I'm telling you this from a small kitchen table that has outlived almost everything else in my life. The house is quiet now, in a way it never used to be. Not peaceful, just quiet. There's a difference you only learn when you're old enough to hear it. For most of my life, I thought I understood time. I had calendars, deadlines, plans. I believed being busy meant I was using it well. I believed exhaustion was proof of value. I believed there would always be a later. Later dinners, later conversations, later apologies, later joy. I didn't realize how expensive that word was. When you're young, time feels wide, like a road with no end. You don't see edges. You don't count seasons. You assume the people you love will always be there, mostly the same, just a little older each year. You assume your body will forgive you. You assume tomorrow will show up on schedule. I assumed all of that. In my 20s, I worked because that's what adults did. I wasn't chasing power or money. I was chasing stability. I wanted to be dependable. I wanted to be someone others could lean on. I said yes to extra shifts. I stayed late. I brought work home in my head, even when my hands were empty. At the time, it felt responsible, sensible, necessary. I remember telling myself, this is just for now. I said it so often it became background noise. Just for now, just until things settle, just until the next milestone, just until I catch my breath. The years didn't announce themselves when they passed. They slipped by quietly. A missed lunch here, a cancelled weekend there, a phone call I didn't return because I was tired, a letter I meant to write, a visit I postponed. Nothing dramatic. That's the part that still unsettles me. People think regret comes from big mistakes, affairs, betrayals, walking out. Mine didn't. Mine came from being consistently unavailable in small, reasonable ways, from choosing efficiency over presence, from believing love could be paused without consequence. I had friends who stopped calling, not all at once, slowly. I had a marriage that became functional instead of tender. We managed a household well. We talked about schedules. We talked about bills. We stopped talking about ourselves. I didn't notice when the laughter left. I noticed when it didn't come back. Now, at 72, time feels different. It's no longer a wide road. It's a narrowing hallway. I can still walk, but I'm aware of the walls. I wake up aware. I go to sleep aware. Each day feels counted, even when I don't want it to be. I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you because no one scared me. They reassured me instead. They said, "You have plenty of time," and I believed them. I'm sitting here now, trying to remember the exact moment I should have known. Not the moment everything broke. There wasn't one. It was more like erosion, quiet, patient, almost kind. In my 30s, my life looked solid from the outside. A steady job, a decent home, routines that ran smoothly. People said I was reliable. They meant it as a compliment. I wore it like a badge. What I didn't see was how much of myself I was putting on hold. I postponed rest. I postponed curiosity. I postponed difficult conversations because they felt inefficient. I told myself I would be more present once things calmed down, once the workload eased, once the next phase arrived. It never did. I remember evenings when my husband would sit across from me at the table, reading the same paper over and over. Not because he was interested, but because he was waiting. I'd say, "Give me a minute." I said that sentence hundreds of times. A minute turned into an hour turned into sleep. He stopped waiting eventually. I didn't notice when that happened. I noticed years later, when the silence between us felt practiced. There were birthdays I attended distracted, holidays where I brought my stress with me like an extra coat I refused to take off. Conversations where someone was clearly trying to say something important and I responded with half-listening words. I told myself I was doing my best, and I was, in the narrow sense. I just didn't understand what my best was being spent on. Time doesn't shout when it's leaving. It doesn't demand attention. It just accepts whatever scraps you give it and moves on. In my 40s, the body begins to whisper. Nothing alarming at first, a little stiffness, fatigue that lingers. I ignored it. I treated it like an inconvenience. I assumed I'd address it later, when I had more room. Later was always booked. I lost my mother during that decade, not suddenly, slowly. There was time to visit, time to call, time to sit beside her. I did some of it, not all. I was often tired, often busy, often planning to go next week. Next week arrived without her. That was the first time time felt sharp, not cruel, just precise. It didn't care about my intentions, only my actions. After the funeral, people said the usual things. At least she knew you loved her. Maybe she did. I hope she did. But knowing and feeling aren't the same. I understand that now. Grief doesn't always explode. Sometimes it settles in quietly and waits. By the time I realized something was wrong, the shape of my life was already set. The habits were deep. The distances were normal, and changing felt heavier than continuing. So I continued. I told myself this was adulthood. This was maturity. This was how life worked. I was wrong. The turning point didn't come with drama. No sirens, no speeches. Just a doctor's voice, calm and practiced, telling me something had been growing in my body for a long time. I remember nodding as if I understood. I remember asking practical questions, treatment options, timelines, side effects. I stayed composed because that's what I'd trained myself to do. What I didn't ask was the question that mattered most. How much time do I have? Not because I didn't want to know, because I was afraid the answer would finally make everything else irrelevant. Illness changes the math of life. Suddenly, weeks have weight. Mornings feel counted. You stop thinking in years without realizing it. My husband tried to be close again then. He cooked more, sat near me, asked questions I wasn't used to answering anymore. We were gentle with each other, almost like strangers trying not to startle. But some distances don't close just because time becomes scarce. When he died, it wasn't the loud grief people imagine. It was the hollow kind, the kind that echoes, the kind that leaves you standing in a room full of his things, realizing you shared a life without sharing enough of yourselves. I went through the days after on instinct, forms, calls, arrangements. I was good at that. I'd practiced my whole life. At night, though, time stretched, not wide, long. Every hour felt exposed. There was nothing left to rush toward. That's when I finally understood what time had been asking of me all along. Not productivity, not sacrifice, presence. I thought I had lost time because of illness, because of death, because of age. The truth was harder. I lost most of it while I was healthy, while I was capable, while I believed I could afford to wait. Now, at 72, my days are simpler, slower. I notice things I once dismissed. The sound of the kettle, light on the floor, my own breathing. I don't romanticize this stage of life. It's lonely. People fade. The world keeps moving without checking if you're still keeping up. But there is clarity here, painful clarity. I see now that time is not something you manage. It's something you inhabit, or you don't. If you're listening to this, I won't tell you what to do. I'll only tell you what I wish I'd understood sooner. You don't lose time all at once. You give it away in pieces, thinking you'll get a refund later. You won't. If this story stayed with you, that's enough. I don't need agreement. I don't need reassurance. I just needed to say it out loud, once, while I still could.